Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Conversations, brought to you by Robbie's Hope Foundation. I am your host, Kari Eckert. Joining me today is Amy Bryant, author of Let Them and owner of Bryant College Coaching. Amy has spent over 20 years coaching in the NCAA. Amy is also a mother to two student athletes, and in her free time enjoys hiking and traveling. Amy, thank you for joining us on Hopeful Conversations, and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So let's start. What's it like to be a college coach for 20 plus years? What kind of changes have you seen?
Um, Goodness, lots of changes. Definitely, in the coaching space, the changes are that I've really paid attention to, I guess, are related more to women and their opportunities, not only in the playing opportunities, the scholarship opportunities, the Title IX things that we see, but also on the administrative side, seeing women in athletics administration really making an impact and really kind of revolutionizing athletic departments to be more of what they can be, and that is the support system for their student athletes.
That's actually how we kind of came about learning about Amy Bryant. Is you and I were at the same conference early this winter about college mental health and athletics, and I learned a lot. And now you're a college coach, helping young people kind of make the right fit. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I retired from college coaching in 2022 and I started my own business supporting high school student athletes with the college recruiting process. Another kind of wing of that business is my coaching of coaches that I do. So I'm an executive coach, the same kind of executive coach that C-suite executives would use. I'm trained. I did that while I was coaching at Emory. Emory had a great program for that. So I got that certification. And so on the side, I do some coaching of coaches as well. Truly, the core piece of my business is supporting student athletes, which is what I did for 23 years as a college coach. But I really, as a kind of passion project of mine, I really wanted to be able to support more coaches. And that's the reason I actually went to the conference, because I feel like there is a need to support coaches. We always talk about student athletes and their mental health needs, which are certainly abundant. But we don't ever really talk about coaches and what support coaches are given. And if we take care of our coaches, then we can take care of our student athletes because they can take care of them better. But we have a lot of expectations on coaches, not a lot of training for coaches, but also not a lot of support coaches.
Oh, just like the stress, like add this to your plate and figure it out, and we're not going to support you. Is that kind of fair?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely stress associated with coaching, obviously. I mean, and I would say that the stress spans, there's different levels of the stress, right? I mean, at the highest levels of Division One, there's stress associated with winning. If you don't win, you get fired, right? There's the financial piece of the stress that, the high level coaches have, and that is, they're really a business and making money for their department, for their school, for their program. And now their athletes are making money. So that
Mm-hmm.
complicates matters further. But not just at that top elite level is there stress. I mean, there's stress all the way down to the less competitive teams. Coaches are tasked with caring for their athletes. They want to win no matter what level they're playing and no matter how much money is associated with their sport. And if it's not a revenue generating sport, there is still stress associated with what they're doing. I can attest to that because I coached a non-revenue generating sport at an athletic department that was non-revenue generating for 23 years, and the stress level was very high.
You're a tennis coach.
I coach tennis. Yes. Yep.
Robbie played tennis. I'm a tennis player.
Yes.
I've just played tennis this week, and I was like, I'm prepping for a talk to young people about mental health and taking care of mental health, and I was like, the conversations that happen on the court, because my partner right now is a younger player and very like just she's very skilled, but her mental mindset. And then I was like, and then the conversations of a bunch of 30 women and their 40s and 50s having the conversation afterwards, going over all of it, like the mental component of this game is really, really strong.
Yes. I would say that the sport of tennis has more mental stress than potentially any other sport. I mean, honestly, there's physical stress associated with tennis that I don't see in any other sport either. I mean, it is an athletic, challenge, just the sprinting component, the agility component,
Twist.
there's an
Huh?
endurance component to it. I mean, there's every single aspect of athleticism involved in tennis. But then there's that mental component because you are on the court. I mean, you're probably playing doubles, if I had to guess,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
On the
yes.
court with somebody, which is nice. But for all of our juniors, and I'm sure Robbie played singles as well. Um, they're out there on their own. Um, and there's not that team support network when you're playing and you're under duress, competitive duress, right? There's not anyone out there saying, "Hey, you got this." You have to say that to yourself when you're on the court. And to be tasked with that I mean, tennis matches can last anywhere from an hour to 4 hours. If we're watching the pros, some of those matches go even longer. So to be tasked with that mental duress for that long on your own, it's pretty significant.
It is. That's interesting. Robbie was a swimmer as well. And I think
Mhm.
about like the single aspect of that sport. Like half the time you're individual, and then there's a little bit of a team component, and the amount of time in a pool. It's very,
That's,
very interesting.
I
How do
would
we
say
help our
that,
athletes with that? Like,
yeah, I would say that swimmers do a really nice job of creating a team culture around their programs. I mean, you can see the swim team, swim clubs on the deck supporting the other swimmers as they're going. They're hitting their kickboards against the wall. They're whistling as your head bobs out of the water. I mean, that's not a thing in tennis. Tennis is a quiet sport. So there's not, I mean, and I put that in quotes because certainly college tennis can get loud. But tennis is very unique in that regard, that there's not that kind of team support.
are you still playing?
I play a little bit of pickleball.
Uh-oh, that's a
Yeah, I know.
that's a
I'm a
swear
trader.
word at my club.
I'm a trader. I and this goes back to why I left coaching. So, I mean, I left coaching for a lot of reasons, but one of the things that I struggled with was the stress that we talked about. And my stress was certainly aggravated by my perfectionism. So I like, I like to be very controlled about what I do. And when you're coaching athletes, you can have a plan, you can execute the plan to the best of your ability, but then you let your players go and they've got to achieve things on their own. It's really up to them. And so, doing that is really hard. So why did I bring that up in regards to playing pickleball now instead of tennis? It's kind of the same thing. I don't train like I used to. I don't have the time to train 2 or 3, 4 hours a day in tennis. So when I go out and hit the ball, it's really hard for me to accept the fact that I am not everything that I know I could be on the tennis court. So that perfectionism kind of seeps in and that control kind of seeps in. So it's not really that enjoyable for me to go. I have to really sit with myself and say, okay, today you're just going to have fun. It's just going to be fun. Just go hit with your friends. It doesn't matter. But like, I'm a competitive person. It is hard for me to do that. It's really hard.
Mm.
Pickleball, I can have fun. Pickleball is fun.
So in your book, in researching for today's conversation, let them, and talking about with like our teenagers potentially that have some talent, some interests, want to go to that next level. Like I look back on both of my children and the amount of time and money and energy we put into our club sports. How do you, that fun part? How do we balance that, bringing that into the conversation with a 15, 16-year-old that they are defining themselves by their sport and their
Yeah.
success in that sport?
So, so the book's called Let Them Play. Although I love the idea of it being Let Them, I probably should have thought of that because I think that opens up all sorts of possibilities there in terms of like, well, what are we saying? And the book is geared towards parents to help them support their, you know, child in whatever athletic endeavor they choose to pursue. Um, and to support them positively, productively. And the book kind of travels through the youth sport years, goes into the high school sport years, and then into the recruiting years. So the stress level certainly ramps up as you go through the book. But I think the overarching message of the book is to let them play and remember that your role as a parent is as a cheerleader and not as a planner, as a doer, as a, path paver for your child. It's really all about them.
The play aspect.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that advice for parents, like a cheerleader versus when you were explaining all the other possible roles, I wanted to say like coach. How many parents try to coach their child?
That's right. And there is a section about that. And I am not a proponent of parent coaches. I know there's a lot of successful athletes out there that have had parent coaches and they are able to manage that relationship. But I think it's really important for parents to have separation from their child and their athletic roles. And that's for a number of reasons. Our children, and I heard you talking about this on one of your podcasts. I think it was maybe with Rebecca Heiss, talking about the identity of student athletes. It could have been with Allison Mallory as well, but our kids need an identity that is separate from their sport. They can certainly have sport be an essential piece of their life and their existence, but it cannot be the only piece of their existence. And if their parent is coaching them, then what happens is that they begin to equate love and appreciation and support with their performance on their playing field rather than just being a kid and just being them and being important just because.
Mm.
So I think it's really important for parents, and it's hard. And you're talking to somebody that is a perfectionist and a control freak, control freak. It's hard for a lot of parents to let that go. But if they are able to do that and say to themselves before they step foot on the field to watch their child play and remind themselves that my role is just to watch them play. There's a great TED Talk. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you Google 5 words you should say to your child, it'll pop up. But there's really only 5 words you should say to your child about
What
their
are
sport.
those?
I love watching you play.
I've heard
Period.
that before. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, too many parents get in the car after a game, after a match, after a meet, and just start laying on all the things that their child could have done better
Mm-hmm.
or things that the coach
Mm-hmm.
didn't do, like should have played you more, should have played you here, should have done this,
Yep.
or things that other players on the team should have done better. So all of that just creates this self-doubt in a student athlete and a child. And really the only thing that a parent should say is, I love watching you play, and just leave it at that.
Such good advice. When you were talking about identity, it made me think of how many parents have like their own identity in their child.
That's 100% true. And not only that, so many parents are trying to overcompensate for some sort of shortcoming that they had or felt on the athletic field when they were younger. And again, we have to separate. We are parents. We have to love on our kids no matter what, whether or not they're good at their sport, whether or not they're great at their sport. We have to love them regardless. And that's really, really important for the child to feel, is that love.
Love. So your book is available on your website, which is bryantcollegecoaching.com. And it's an ebook for an easy download.
Very easy. I think it's 35 pages. You can read it in, 30 minutes or less. There's some beautiful illustrations in it as well. So if you're a visual person like me, it'll hopefully serve as a reminder, and help you just kind of see what you're experiencing through, again, through some beautiful drawings. Yeah, go ahead.
My next question was about holistic development of a young athlete. What does that look like?
Yeah. So, the reason that sports are so essential to have in a student's life or in a child's life is because we want to help them develop a healthy lifestyle, right? And that's what sports are. I've talked to parents before that tell me, my child wants to quit, they're not performing at the level, or they're not enjoying the sport, or, whatever it is, and my child wants to quit. And I always say, great, fine. They don't have to play their sport, but they have to do something active, because that is an essential component to living a healthy lifestyle. So that's key. That's one of the main reasons that we play sports, or that we should play sports. Then, of course, there's also the values that are associated with being on a team, having that camaraderie, having positive team culture, having positive accountability. All of these factors are what makes, our children better leaders, better team members in the future, in their future careers, better at everything, really. I mean, sports is tremendous for value building. So there's lots of great reasons to play. Some kids are better at being an individual sport athlete. Some kids are better at being a team sport athlete, and they find it more fun, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. Pick your passion. But it's really important to be involved, period, in some sort of healthy lifestyle activity.
And your passion can change. That's like you said, it has to be something. I guess I just would, from the mental health component, like if a young person is really like, I don't know, maybe a 15-year-old, 16-year-old is excelling in their sport and has a very sudden need to like drop it, like I'm done, I would challenge that parent to like maybe go a little bit deeper. Like, why is that? Like, it shouldn't come on like a decision like that. With Robbie, I remember he said he had just finished, he died in October, and he was a dual sport athlete, and he had just finished junior varsity tennis. He goes to a very large high school. It's very hard to make the varsity team. I think there's 11 spots, and there's 75 kids on the roster. And the coaching, the dollars aren't there. The junior varsity team does not get any good coaching. So it's hard to be a okay player on that spot. And I remember he said to me, and then he had started club swim. So he was putting in really, really long days as a 15-year-old, like 7 a.m. until 9:30 at night, and then coming home and doing his IB homework. I guess I'm having a little bit of my regrets here, my honest regrets. But Robbie said to me, probably about 2 weeks before his death, and tennis had wrapped up, he said, if I don't make varsity next year, I'm done with tennis. And I struggled with that comment. I can remember the tone of his voice. And I was just like, buddy, like I called Robbie buddy. Why are you even thinking about that? That's next August.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is October. Like no pressure. Like we have so much time between now and then. But in his mind, like it was that varsity squad, and he was a bright kid. He knew varsity might not be attainable as a junior even.
Mhm. Yeah, so varsity or bust, really. Interesting. And I see that so often with the student athletes that I work with too, who want to play their sport in college. It's Division 1 or bust for them.
Ooh,
And
which
what
how realistic is Division 1 for most athletes?
yeah. I mean, less than 2% of high school athletes will actually go on to play Division 1. Only
Wow,
6% of high school athletes will go on and play in college. So the percentages are, it's
not in your
real.
favor.
Yeah. However, what I do say for student athletes that want to play but can't find a team, or don't like the teams where they're being recruited, or don't like the schools where they're being recruited, would rather play somewhere else, that they strongly consider playing club or playing intramural sports and staying engaged in some way, in some capacity. Again, we go back to that healthy lifestyle and healthy living, because it's really, really hard to just drop a sport that you've played your whole life. You put in so many hours into it, and it's, like we talk about the identity piece. It's become part of their identity, and then to suddenly go to college and to not have any, afternoon practice, no time restrictions whatsoever, and you're only in class for 3 or 4 hours a day, if that. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of time there to, get into trouble and waste away. I know for me as a two-sport student athlete in college, I performed better the weeks that I was in season and heavily training, because I just didn't have time to waste. I just had to do my work right when I had the time to do my work. But
I like that advice to think about club or intramural. My daughter played a club sport in college. Just the community that gave her at a really big school, like it,
yep,
and the structure to her schedule, I think it was very beneficial to her because community is something that so many of our, I want to say young people, but it's more than young people. It's very much lacking for a lot of people. People feel very much alone.
yeah. Yep, absolutely. And many of the club teams are really well established. I mean,
Hmm.
almost more established than some of the varsity programs, depending on the coaching turnover, et cetera. But the club programs, I mean, those are some really dedicated students that have made sure that those club programs are flourishing, and great alumni that donate to the programs. And then, many of them have hired coaches too that really work the programs. So if you're coming into, say a large school and you're kind of overwhelmed, having that automatic support system there for you when you step foot on campus can be so helpful to eliminate some of that overwhelm.
How you said you're in Atlanta? I know, and because our schools are so big in our metro area here, a lot of kids don't play their high school sport. They
Mm.
only stick to their club. Is that like a nationwide trend? And what's your kind of maybe opinion or advice there?
Yeah, I talk about this in my book as well. It's an unfortunate trend, honestly. Definitely see it here in Atlanta. I see it with my own high school senior and my high school freshman. One of them plays for the high school team, the other one does not. They both play the same sport. Um, and I can see the one who doesn't, I can see that he misses it, and the reason that he doesn't play is because the league that he's in doesn't allow him to play for the high school team. And I think that's really a tough call for a league to make. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I
Mhm.
understand their point of view is that the training's better. We do year-round training. We can control the level of competition that the athlete is seeing, versus in high school, there's a little less control, more uh, propensity for injury, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see their point of view, but I know that these kids love being a part of what high school sports is all about, and representing their community in that regard. And it's really a positive for them and their development. So yeah, I have a lot of trouble with that. I mean, on the tennis side of things, I mean, this, all the kids going, not only not playing high school, but not even going to high school. right?
Mhm. Go
Going
to an
online,
academy and live someplace different.
right? Yeah. I mean, that's happening in a number of sports as well. My thought on that is there are a lot of parents that are willing to pay whatever it costs to give their child whatever they need to make it as far as they can. And I just have to push back a little bit on that, because if you're paying to send your kid to this academy to go do all this stuff, like, I get where you're coming from. You want to give them everything. They might want it. Your child might want it, but at the same time, it's like they're probably going to end up in the same place as they would have if they had stayed put in their high school. If they had stayed put in their club or high school team, they're probably going to end up in the same place once we're done with college. Sometimes even going into college in the recruiting process, we wind up in the same place. So
Mm.
now, if it's a not pay to play situation, like for example, if your child is approached by a professional organization or the US Olympic Committee or something, and there's an opportunity to advance their skill set, now we're talking. Like, now we're talking the less than 1%, right? Okay, this is a conversation that is probably worth it for you to have. Like, do we send our kid outside of the school system to an academy to do this? They're paying for it. It's a real thing. Like, this is a
Mhm.
real possibility for my child. Then you've got to get back to, what are your family values? Like, so I think that, that first kind of checkbox is it pay to play? If it's pay to play, I'm not I'm not on board with that. If it's not, if they're covering you, then you got to check with your values and just say, is this something that our family values can support? Like, is this what we want? Because a lot of families get split up. Your child's somewhere else training, you're in another location working. It's, again, just comes down to your family values and what you can do, what you can afford to do for your family in that regard.
And it's a quick road. It's a very short period of time where all of these opportunities happen, and you only can see like how far in front of you. Like it's parenting's not easy.
It's not easy, as you know, and experience, but yeah, there's no right or wrong answer, right? We can't control everything. We can't predict everything. So that's why, I really encourage, and I'm not a family counselor by any means, but and I don't have a counseling background, but I just really encourage families to have those conversations about what their values are, so that they can make the best decision that's right for them and for their family.
Is there like an opportunity for mentoring, like a parent that is, a few steps ahead, like as that college athlete, like that relationship as a parent, and like parenting a 26-year-old, like I love having someone that is a few steps ahead of me to
Yep.
just kind of see like, because when you're in the moment, when you're playing that club sport at age 14 and every single weekend and you're looking at your calendar for a whole year, like it's hard to see past that.
Well, and it's hard to silence the noise too, because all the parents on the sideline are talking about, whatever team is getting formed next and who's been invited to play on that team, and where do we need to be training and who's the best coach, and like there's so much, right? So yes, there's definitely mentorship opportunities. That's actually one of my favorite things to do in my business. So I do meet with, as early as middle school families, not the families, the parents I would meet with in middle school, just kind of talk through things and to make sure that we are still emphasizing the joy that needs to be inherent to playing a sport. Um, and also just talk about, what the um, options are for a child based on their skill set, based on their mental headspace, based on the opportunities that are available in their area. So yes, that type of mentorship is available, and I love it. It's actually those are my favorite meetings to do, because I just get to sit there and talk about my opinions and beliefs, and that's the greatest thing. No research required.
How do you help a family or an athlete, like the culture? You mentioned this at the little bit at the beginning, like, oh, that school doesn't match like what I want. Like, I mean, we can look at cultures of club teams for our 12-year-olds, our 14-year-olds. Like, how does a parent or an athlete look at that type of conversation so that there is the right fit?
Yeah, that's really hard to know, right? It's really hard to know, especially at younger ages. I think when you're evaluating culture at younger ages, it's really important to take a look at the coach and the delivery of the messaging that the coach is um, giving to the children. Um, Obviously, we want positive messaging, and that looks a little different depending on where the coaches come from, because coaches are very influenced in how they were coached. So you just have to make sure that the style really matches what your child is going to thrive in, how they're going to flourish. But you can also recognize positive team culture by looking at the team and seeing how the coach reacts to what the team does. So, like, if, for example, there's a child on the field that behaves badly or talks back to a ref or pushes another kid, are there consequences for that kid? Do the other children see those consequences? Because that's really important. If they learn that there are no consequences, then what we have is, a headless monster. We've got kids not really being coached, and we haven't developed any of those positive values that we want our children to instill as they develop through the pathway. Once we get to the high school years and college years of recognizing positive team culture, I think becomes a little bit more transparent. You can see how. So when I work with student athletes in the recruiting process, the visit is essential, right? And when my student athletes go on a visit, I want them to observe a practice and a competition if possible. And when they are observing those two things, I want them to pay attention to what the coach is doing, how the team reacts to the coach, all of those, same things. But there's other things that they should pay attention to too. Like, does the team hang out with each other when they're off the field? Does the team support one another with their schoolwork, or is it only their sport? How do the alumni stay engaged with the program once they've graduated? That says a lot about team culture as well. And then, of course, at the beginning phases of things, it's evaluating how the recruiting process has gone with the coach, because that can always give you an idea of how a coach is going to run a program. For example, if a coach is a little more disorganized and disheveled with the recruiting process, that tends to lead towards maybe disorganized practices, which may or may not be a positive thing for student athletes. Some student athletes perform best when they are, not restricted in any way, shape, or form on the field. They can be creative. They can, do their own thing, while others really need intense practices start to finish, because then they have the time to get to their studies afterwards, and they focus better if they have,
Structure.
That's right. That's right. So
Mm.
there are clues all the way through your child's participation in sport to really find the right culture for them.
Clues as in so many other things. Like I keep all of the conversation like thinking, God, this applies to this type of situation, relationship that isn't related to sports. That's why we want our children to be in sports.
That's right. That's right.
And as an adult, I still participate because it's just like I have that part of me, even though it's challenging and sometimes not fun. It's so good for me.
Yeah. And I think, what you're doing with your tennis team too is so valuable, because, you know, tennis is such a great, women's tennis especially, like, that's where we go to vent, right? That's like how we talk about our day, how we handle, all the stresses that we're experiencing in life, parenthood, job related stress, everything. Like, those are our people.
It's community.
That's it. Yep. That's it.
Well, this has been a helpful conversation. I guess sports were such a big of my child rearing years for my kids, and so I mean, we're on the other side of it now, but like would repeat those years so much if I could the relationships and just the parenting, the amount of hours and time, like such a love.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm almost on the other end of it now, Kari, and I'm scared, to be
Hmm.
honest, like I don't know what I'll do when we don't have a game every weekend.
Yeah. That's something that we kind of miss as parents. Like, we don't talk about that. Like,
Mm,
you can apply that to different stages of your life too. Like, I just ran across a gentleman that I hadn't seen in a few months, and he's like, I recently semi-retired since I saw you last. And like the changes, like change is a constant. How
that's
are we
right.
going to approach it? Where are we defining ourselves?
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's so important for parents to have something like what you have with your tennis team so that they can continue to live their healthy lifestyle independent of their children.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, this is fantastic. Amy, where can people find you?
So my website is bryantcollegecoaching.com. I have lots of free resources on there. And as you mentioned, the ebook's only $5. It's an easy little one. You can also get it on Kindle. That's an easy thing. I also have a podcast. It's called in my podcast, I interview coaches. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so we talk coaches of all levels, youth, high school, professional, college. So I've had lots of really, really great mentors on the show talking. So really great, helpful information on there as well. It's called
Awesome.
Picking Teams, a playbook for parents. And so, yeah, I encourage everybody to check out all the free resources. And if you ever need mentorship, you can certainly schedule an appointment online as well.
Before I let you go, I have one last question. What does the world need to hear right now?
Oh gosh, well that could go in so many different directions, but I will stick to kind of my messaging and why I started my business really and what's core to me, and that is um, be kind to your coaches. Extend grace to your coaches. Coaches are human too. And I say that to parents when we're, experiencing watching our kids play. I mean, coaches are on the ground, they are our first mentor for these student athletes and for your children. And if you just, they're going to make mistakes, just extend grace to them. You don't need to pick up the phone and call them every time. They know when they make a mistake and they'll rectify it. If they're a good coach, they will. So trust them, be kind to them, extend grace to them, and appreciate everything that they're doing for their kid. Because really, coaches' hearts are in the right places. Promise you.
Extend grace. Thank you.
Yep.
Amy, thank you for joining me today. And to our listeners, hopeful conversation. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. And until then, remember, hold on, pain ends. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.